Welcome to this afternoon session. I'm Lizzie from Bristol Climate Nature Partnership, and we're going to start with a couple of introductions before we get into the detail. It's a heat wave at the moment, you might have noticed, and nothing focuses the mind on a question of where is the nearest tree like a heat wave does. And I'm sure we'll all be trying to find shelter in trees and forests in the days to come, depending on where you're heading back to after this. We're really excited. Hopefully this is going to be a really bright spot in your afternoon to be thinking about reforestation in the west of England and the creation of the UK's newest national forest. That is happening. So that is really, really good news, and it's kind of what the type of change that we're hopefully all looking for. And this panel is going to explore the progress that's being made to create the UK's newest national forest and the potential for this to bring benefits for the west of England. So I'll just give a quick introduction to myself before I introduce our panelists. I'm Lizzie, Bristol Climate Nature Partnership, and we are a place-based network of 1,400 organisations working together for a zero carbon and socially just Bristol, where all our communities and nature thrive. So that huge group of organisations that I represent back in Bristol are very, very likely to be happy about more trees and happy about more forests in and around the city that they live, love and work in. So I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, your organisation and what you're up to support this reforestation effort. Over to you, Safia, first.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Safia, so I'm the Partnerships and Advocacy Manager at Western Forest, which, as Lizzie just said, it's the first national forest in 30 years, so in a generation. And it's a really exciting opportunity to join with the national forest that has existed since 1990, which is from the Midlands. And they've seen a transformation in their area from canopy cover being from 6% to 26% now this year. So really looking at that transformation at scale. And at Western Forest, what we're trying to do is a similar transformation in the west of England, but really placing it in the best of the West, the spirit of the West, into our homes in Bristol, but also into our rural livelihoods that are really important across the region. So we're really large. We're about 3,000 square miles, and we're covering Wiltshire, Gloucestershire, and the west of England. And we're part of the government's manifesto to create 3 new national forests. So we're the first of those 3. One is also in the Oxford-Cambridge area, and another competition has just launched for one in the North and Midlands, focusing on health. So what we're trying to do in Western Forest is really be big, bold, and positive in our action for trees and woodlands. We have 10.9% canopy cover across that region, which is lower than the average in the UK of 13.5. And what we're really looking at doing is thinking past our political boundaries, looking at nature recovery, and looking at where we can connect our existing woodlands, where we can better improve the conditions of the ones that we have, and how we can bring trees to where people are in our vibrant urban centres and really showcase nature-positive growth. So from that, I just want to unpick the word forestry, because I sometimes think that forests, people think of really densely planted trees, and they think of it as quite productive, maybe a little bit monoculture, and that's really not what we're trying to do. We're really trying to expand that knowledge of what a forest is and what it serves in terms of those ecosystem services. So we're really looking at this in terms of the west, in terms of the west of England. We're really looking at this from a mosaic approach. So open spaces, woodland patches, low-density wood pasture, street trees, riparian planting for flood mitigation. All of these encompass what a forest looks like. And that's really what we're trying to bring to the Western Forest. It's where people live, it's where people work, it's where food production is really important. And we really need to ensure that trees are really part of that big picture. So our vision is thriving woodlands, farms, and communities connected by trees. The woodland part I've touched on. We want to enhance, we need to transform that canopy cover to be greater than 10.9%. We have 5 years of funding to plant 2,500 hectares of trees and woodlands that will look at connecting and creating green corridors for nature and people, thinking about how we could bring pine martens back, which are really important species introductions. but also look at that cross-boundary collective action through our partners. Agriculturally, from a farm perspective, we're 75% agricultural. And so we need to make this work for resilience in our landscape, both for business and climate. And that's really fundamental. If we don't work with landowners, if we don't listen to their needs and listen to how we can improve local food production and bring that resilience into our landscape, we won't have worked and we wouldn't have been as successful as hoped. And then finally, communities. So we support 2.5 million people, including urban centres like Swindon, Gloucester, Bristol, but we also support rural livelihoods as well. And what we really want to do is, through grassroots action and policy change, integrate trees into infrastructure, into locations where people are, for those ecosystem services like health and well-being, flood risk, and really placing the Western Forest in the west of England and making sure that it is there for generations to come.
Amazing. That's such a, what a joyful introduction. And next, I'll introduce Katie, who also coincidentally happens to be one of my neighbours.
It's lovely to be over here with you, Lizzie and Safia. Thank you. I'm Katie. I'm our Partnerships and Philanthropy Lead for Avon Needs Trees. Avon Needs Trees is a charity that buys land to create permanent woodland within the Avon River catchment. We started in 2019, a grassroots organisation looking to club together curry nights, pub quizzes, to get some cash together to buy a 34-acre site over in Wiltshire. If we fast forward to today, the charity has grown and grown to the point that the charity is owning around 580 acres of land and are permanent custodians of that land. We plant trees and create habitats similar to what Safia said in a mosaic approach. Open space for grasslands, wetlands, kilometres of hedgerows, riparian work for benefits that you will all be very familiar with. Natural flood management, sequestering carbon, biodiversity, improving local access for people to nature to boost well-being. We are a delivery partner to the Western Forest, which means our sites are 580 acres. They are geographically within that region, so we are on the ground planting the trees. We are one of many delivery partners that will be doing that over the period. Our two latest projects, we've been focusing down in the Chew Valley, which is just between Bath and Bristol in the south. We have one site, Great Avon Wood, which we bought 100 acres, planted 30,000 trees entirely with volunteers. And we co-own that site with the Forest of Avon Trust, so we're kind of collaborating in that spirit in the West Country. And our latest site, Lower Chew Forest, a 422-acre site, bigger than anything the charity has taken on before. The winter just gone this planting season, and we planted 70,000 trees between December and April, and we use innovative fundraising models to be able to buy the land that we plant on so that we can ensure that it is standing permanently, including biodiversity net gain at Lower Chew Forest, which is a really exciting nature-based solution that we've been able to kind of contribute to this new nature market. And now, obviously, planting is just the first step. We're going through a really important program of tree care and maintenance at our sites. So over 100,000 trees in the Chew Valley that we need to go around and check them, and mulching kilometres of hedgerows and replacing stakes and guards. We're out there every week with volunteers doing that. We're supported by a network of over 1,500 volunteers, people who come out in sideways rain to plant with us and come out in the heat. We have cancelled our events this week, bit of a sort of sobering moment, but they will come out in challenging conditions to support us and make these projects a reality. And we're really proud of that vital and slightly less sort of sexy counterpart to tree planting. Everyone loves putting trees in the ground. It's less fun going around and changing the broken stakes. But we do that so that we have a survival rate that we're really proud of. We have an over 80% survival rate of our trees, which we hope will mean that our site and their contribution to this new national initiative will stand the test of time and will be resilient into the future, as well as continuing to provide all of those co-benefits, which, you know, in the spirit of nature-based solutions, we all know the benefits of forests and this kind of space. So yeah, I'll hand back to Lizzie.
Amazing. So I'm hearing a tree is for a generation, not just for Christmas. And we have Saf, who Western Forest coordinating and mobilising a landscape, and Katie and Avon Needs Trees, a real engine within that landscape, delivering on the ground, mobilising, connecting people, doing really, really innovative fundraising, including with the artist Luke Jerram,
Exactly.
obviously another proud Bristol export, who is also putting people in touch with the sort of majesty of nature and the natural world in his different ways. Yeah, it's so exciting to hear about. I'm sure you get many positive reactions. Also, we know in Bristol, people always have an opinion, so I'm sure there's been a range of responses. And also just even listening to you, hearing about the many potential benefits of reforestation. So yeah, what has the response been like, and what do you think is the biggest opportunity and maybe some of the most unexpected things arising from this bold vision being launched? Saf first.
Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, I mean, the response has been amazing. It's been positive. I've been part of the program since its beginnings. Developed it with around 40 organizations, NGOs, local authorities, the combined authority, farmers, really starting with listening about what the need was in this area and how Western Forest could create those solutions, and trees could be embedded into those different challenges, such as transport, planning, development, but also agriculture. So we're a strong partnership through and through, and we won the bid through our collaborative approach. And so, as Katie said, we have delivery partners on the ground, including the wildlife trusts, the community forests. Sorry, my head thing's going a little bit. The community forests, and also farmer memberships such as CLA and NFU to really start delivery on the ground so we can see that tangible change. But we're really there to amplify and enable those partners that are already doing such good work in the area. We're not starting with a clean slate. We're really wanting to build on those amazing projects such as Lower Chew, learn from them, share that kind of expertise and that knowledge exchange to really bring partners together so that we can collaborate at the scale that nature really needs us. And that's really exciting when you look at those 3 regions, because from a local nature recovery strategy point of view, they join up so beautifully when it comes to the tree corridors and how we can work across those boundaries within the political 3 regions. So I think the opportunity has always been that Western Forest can be this amazing Kickstarter into multiple landscape scale approaches and enable and amplify our partners to supercharge that in the West Country. I think I touched on it in my introduction, but the greatest opportunity will be becoming a national exemplar for agroforestry. So that's trees for farms, for farmers, that make business sense, that build on climate resilience. So we don't just sell trees. I think we have, in the past, we've sold them as they're nice to haves, they're good, they're climate resilient kind of part of your farm. But actually, we need to change that language when we're talking about agriculture. We need to say that trees on your farms is going to be an economic benefit to you. It is going to bring business resilience. So we're not, and we really want to have like examples of that, case studies where farmers can do peer-to-peer learning. And that's really important, because conservation or NGOs coming in telling people what to do is not what we need. We need farmers to share what their experience is, the honest truth of how hard it is sometimes to put nature-based solutions onto their farms. But we have those examples and create those learning hubs so farmers can come together and learn from each other. We have an example of a farm in Wiltshire that's one of our learning hubs that planted trees about 20 years ago, and it's actually said is now been measured that has brought a 35% increase in profit to that farming business. And those are the stories we really need to capture the interest of farmers, to really have that resilience built into their landscape and also into our local food production. So I think it's really important that we change the narrative of nature not being a nice to have, but really making sense for a business.
And for the rest of us, in terms of climate resilience, I'm always walking around the west of England with my little drum saying, You know, we are the region in the world with the second largest tidal range in the whole world, and the largest tidal range in an urban area, i.e. where people live. And so trees also are a really important part, aren't they, of kind of like absorbing water in the landscape and managing flood risk. And I kind of hear you also need that to be translatable down to an individual farm or individual whoever is the land stewards level, that they can see that and also are benefiting from providing that wider benefit as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's really looking at that economic business resilience as much as climate resilience. So, I mean, notably, farmers don't even like the word climate. So how do you sell nature-based solutions, or how do you talk about integrating nature-based solutions into farming practices where you're not closing the door straight away just with the terminology you're using? So really important to think about these things of how you engage and invite farmers and landowners into the conversation.
Katie, do you have anything you'd like to add to this question?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd be really keen to talk about biodiversity net gain and biodiversity bounce back as a kind of response and an opportunity. So since the charity took on Lower Chew Forest, 422-acre farm, taking it out of sort of intensive arable and tilling and spraying, the biodiversity bounce back, just releasing it back to nature, has been really marked. Notably kind of skylark nests spreading out across the site. We've every time you go down, you can just hear them trilling. It's really spectacular. We sowed 45 hectares of grassland last autumn, so that kind of unstructured grassland that's perfect for them. It really speaks to that mosaic approach being really important, that we aren't just densely planting trees across the whole site. We're making sure that we've looked at the topography of the land, we've done heritage assessments of the land, of what waterways used to be where, and looking at rebuilding them so that the land is going to have this really biodiverse mix of habitats that will serve such a really wide variety of different wildlife. And by doing this, we sort of see the opportunity to do BNG the right way, I suppose. So these kind of nature markets can have bad reputations, and so we're really excited to be able to give that market a chance for us to do it in a way that we see as a really positive way, and enabling local developments to contribute to a truly place-making, regionally significant project with added social benefits, volunteering, where 98% of our volunteers have fed back that they felt a positive impact for their mental health or physical health. And that we will be custodians of these sites for the long term. These habitats are fully resourced for 30 years because it's in our charitable constitution that we need to look after them. So it's a really exciting response, not just from the wildlife, but people, locals, neighbours, businesses that have seen what we're doing and are supporting it, and then the added sort of opportunity of being able to contribute to national initiatives like the Western Forest.
Yeah, the natural capital markets are obviously very much sort of like rapidly advancing and developing, and I wouldn't say I would go as far as to say I'm a skeptic. I am closely watching the outcomes, and I definitely feel quite reassured in terms of that constitutional charitable status that means people understand this is for what you've said it is on the tin, and that profit that you managed to make through very innovative means goes back into creating that impact again.
It does, absolutely, and it gives the market an opportunity to work by the investment that we've had. So we were given a commercial loan from Triodos Bank, which enabled us to buy the farm, and we will repay the loan through the sale of biodiversity net gain credits. It's a massive vote of confidence from a massive business to give the market a chance to succeed, which is what it needs. It needs a bit of time before legislation changes and that kind of thing can overturn all the progress. So it feels like a really positive opportunity to try and give it some legs.
Right, I'm going to come at you with a question, which is one feature of our region is that agriculture, urban areas that are big and vibrant and a strong sense of community within those. How are you hoping to capitalise on those particular things that make this region special to make the Western Forest successful?
Absolutely. And so one thing I would point to is the way in which reforestation, as Safia mentioned, can be commercially really successful for local food production. Open grassland, really important for pollinators. We can't grow food domestically if we don't have pollinators. And it just being, in terms of those other points around people, it boosts well-being, being able to reconnect with nature. We've got an extensive engagement program that looks to engage with people who face barriers to accessing nature, trying to break those down. Our sites are located near to Bath and Bristol, nice urban areas, and we've working hard to break down those barriers to get underrepresented groups out and feeling more familiar with nature that's so close. It's so beautiful down in the Chew Valley. It's half an hour in the car, and so many people who live in Bristol and Bath don't really know how to access it. And then also sort of at Lower Chew Forest, as a good example, we're pioneering local walnut production. So we've got a walnut orchard, we've got extensive fruit orchards. We'll look at horticultural interplanting. So we're really trying to use the land to be for nature, for people, for food production, and give all of that a chance in time. Agroforestry, bringing livestock onto the land, using the lovely shade of the trees that we need so much at the moment. So bit of a jumping around answer there, Lizzie.
How about apples? Because we like our apples in the west of England.
We do indeed. I think there'll be a wassail in January.
Oh, fabulous. I'll be there. Saf, so we've kind of heard about Lower Chew and that particular area, but you are also looking at cities and you're looking at other existing farms, and some of those might present initial challenges, but the opportunity matches how hard it might be in some cases. So
Yeah, definitely. So as part of Western Forest, we obviously have our kind of forest creation, our agroforestry lens at that 2,500 hectares connecting the kind of corridors of the west of England in terms of reforestation. But in terms of people and communities and those urban centres, how do we bring people both out to access the amazing landscapes that exist, like the Cotswolds, the Mendips, Lower Chew. Like, we're really rich and diverse in our landscape, and it should be celebrated through this approach. But what we're really interested in is something called Forest Action, which is our second pillar in our strategy, which really looks at grassroots placemaking of how do we make this forest work for the people who live there, and through making it as inclusive as possible. So we have a plan to create 5 urban to rural corridors, connecting people from urban and rural spaces, both to our amazing green spaces in their urban centres, out into the rural livelihoods and the rural heritage of the region. And what we will do is we will be creating 5 listening campaigns, really asking that broad question of what should this forest look like for you through different lenses and kind of focuses or priorities that come from community voices. So whether it's through the lens of access, whether it's through the lens of transport and grassroots, we'll be really trying to identify certain elements from those listening campaigns, taking walks in these landscapes, such as Bristol to Bath, Swindon into Wiltshire, and really asking where do you want to see the change, and using those voices to create a number of investable programs that then kind of ask back to private and public for that placemaking change, so people can really feel part of that movement and then become kind of stewards and responsible and feel that ownership of the forest. We don't want to be over here doing something. We want people to really be brought along with us.
Amazing. I've got one more question before Rob comes and rugby tackles us off the stage. So we've got about 2.5 minutes each for this one. In the densely populated UK, with pressures from housing crisis and infrastructure, and you guys might be from different areas of the country and recognise some of these competitions for land use. Competition for land use is high. So what would you say to other places that might be raising their ambitions around reforestation, around balancing those things?
I've written 3 statements, so hopefully we can save some time and not get rugby tackled. So my first one is partnership is key. We need to bring partners together to collaborate and not compete. and it needs to be diverse. You need to look in that room and you need to see who's missing. You need to invite others in, and you really need to make sure it's as inclusive as possible and be transparent and honest about it internally, as well as how you're sharing externally, how you want to be inclusive. Everyone wants to be inclusive, but actually how do you make sure that you are doing that from the get-go? My second one is place your forest. We have so many stories of what trees mean to people. So many people can connect to nature, to their woodlands. They might not know it, but they will use them inadvertently. So place your forest and bring those stories to life. And that will be your USP in which you sell it. And then finally, start by listening. So many programs we see, they are created based on an idea that doesn't actually work for those that are the land stewards or the land managers, or work for the place or the people that they're in. So what we did from Western Forest is we started by listening to farmers. We said, what do you need this to do? How do we make sure that we are doing it right and we're not causing more complexity? We're simplifying it. We're bringing that funding, knowledge exchange right to your doorstep. So yeah, start by listening and hearing what people need.
Very good answer, Seth. Hard to follow that. I would say along the lines of, we can see the competition, and do we need to see it as a competition? Can we see the co-benefits of reforestation, and that there is place for all of it? You know, there's place for housing, there's place for, so much of our land just has cows on it. We can put trees where those cows are. And then also slow the flow of water, put native roots back in the ground that can soak up water, stop it from running off, improve local waterways, provide shade for livestock, provide shade for people, provide volunteering and engagement opportunities, education opportunities, whilst also, you know, having grasslands for all kinds of different purposes, pollinators, riparian work again, and yeah, I think reforestation has many multifaceted benefits that can tick a lot of boxes, as well as the other challenges.
I was hoping to get through this as if I looked like I knew what it meant, but the word riparian is a new one for me. So
Great.
Could you?
So it's working around the riverbanks to improve the quality of water, and reduce flooding, provide natural flood management. Does that cover it?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. It's mainly planting around water spaces.
Amazing. I'm
nature
going to work that into a conversation I have out
Good
in the
work.
wild. Yeah. Thank you so much, both of you. It's really amazing to hear about this brilliant thing that's needed right now, especially. Schools in Bristol have just announced they're closing on Wednesday and Thursday, and all of the parents are discussing which forest they're going to be taking their children to. So this is needed, and it's happening. And after this, we're going to be shooting back to the west to go and reforest, and I hope that happens in your region too. And these guys might be around for a little bit to have a chat with after. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of Reset Connect.
Thank you.